Welcome back to Vacation Quest. Today we're diving into Maine, where you'll hear about a town where the British stole tax money and used it to build a Canadian university. An island where cars have been banned for over a century. And the place where the very first naval battle of the American Revolution went down, fought by locals armed with pitchforks and axes against the British Navy. Maine is hiding some seriously wild small-town stories, and we're counting down the 13 best. Number 13. Bethel. Tucked into the mountains of western Maine sits Bethel, a town of about 2,800 people that calls itself Maine's most beautiful mountain village. And honestly, they might be onto something. This is ski country, with Sunday River Resort just minutes away, but Bethel has a lot more going on than chairlifts. The town is home to the Maine Mineral and Gem Museum, which houses the largest collection of lunar and Martian meteorites on public display anywhere in the world. Yes, in tiny Bethel, Maine. The downtown area has this classic New England charm, with brick storefronts and white church steeples against a backdrop of mountains. Looking to buy here? Homes in Bethel typically run around $325,000, which is actually pretty reasonable compared to most of Maine's tourist destinations. Number 12. Stonington. At the southern tip of Deer Isle, connected to the mainland by a narrow bridge, you'll find Stonington. Population about 1,100 year-round residents. This is a working fishing village, one of the few left in Maine that hasn't been completely taken over by tourists. Stonington is the top lobster port in the state, hauling in more of those famous crustaceans than anywhere else. The town climbs up from the harbor on a steep hill, so you get these incredible views of the bay from just about anywhere. It's become a magnet for artists, with the Haystack Mountain School of Crafts nearby drawing creative types from around the world. The 1912 Stonington Opera House still hosts concerts and events. Homes here average around $450,000, but waterfront properties can easily push past $700,000. Number 11. Boothbay Harbor. About an hour up the coast from Portland, Boothbay Harbor has been drawing summer visitors since the 1870s. The town of roughly 2,200 people calls itself the boating capital of New England, and when you see the harbor packed with windjammers and sailboats, you understand why. The annual Windjammer Days Festival every late June brings historic tall ships into the harbor, and it's been happening since 1962. Just outside town, you'll find the Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens, 270 acres of gardens and trails that's become one of the state's top attractions. The harbor here never freezes, which made it valuable for shipbuilding. Hodgdon Yachts has been building boats in Boothbay since 1816. Real estate is competitive here, with the median home price hovering around $475,000. Number 10. Kennebunkport. This one you've probably heard of, and that's because it's been the summer home to American presidents. The Bush family compound at Walker's Point has been in the family since 1903. George H.W. Bush used it as his summer White House, hosting world leaders like Mikhail Gorbachev and Margaret Thatcher right here on the Maine coast. The town itself, population around 3,500, has that wealthy New England resort feel, with galleries, boutiques, and restaurants packed into Dock Square. Cape Porpoise, a little fishing village just outside town, offers a quieter alternative. The Kennebunks have some of Maine's highest real estate prices, with the median home coming in around $850,000. Waterfront estates can run into the millions. Number 9. Bar Harbor. The gateway to Acadia National Park, Bar Harbor sits on Mount Desert Island and has one of those quirky origin stories. The town was devastated by a massive fire in 1947 that destroyed nearly half of it, including many of the enormous Gilded Age cottages built by families like the Rockefellers and Vanderbilts. What rose from the ashes was something more eclectic and less pretentious. Today, this town of about 5,500 has everything from upscale restaurants to tourist shops selling moose-themed souvenirs. The name Bar Harbor comes from the sandbar that appears at low tide, letting you walk out to Bar Island. And yes, people do get stranded out there when the tide comes back in. Homes in Bar Harbor average around $575,000, though the median can swing wildly depending on the season's listings. Number 8. Wiscasset, the prettiest village in Maine. That's what the welcome sign says when you roll into Wiscasset. Population about 3,700. Whether or not you agree, you'll definitely remember this town for one thing: traffic. Red's Eats, a tiny lobster shack that's been operating since 1938, draws such enormous crowds in summer that the line wraps around the block and causes Route 1 to back up for miles. They pile an entire lobster onto each roll. The resulting traffic jam has been called the biggest traffic jam in Maine. Beyond the lobster chaos, Wiscasset has the Lincoln County Courthouse, which has been operating longer than any courthouse in continuous use in America. The Abenaki name Wiscasset means coming out from the harbor, but you don't see where. Homes here run around $425,000. Number 7. Camden, where the mountains meet the sea. That's Camden's tagline. And standing in the harbor with Mount Batty rising right behind you, it makes sense. This town of about 5,000 became famous partly because of a teenage girl named Edna St. Vincent Millay. In 1912, she read her poem Renaissance, which she'd written from atop Mount Batty, at a party in the Whitehall Inn. A guest was so impressed, she paid for Millay's tuition to Vassar. Millay went on to win the Pulitzer Prize. The poem's opening lines are now carved into a plaque at the mountain's summit. Camden also has that unique distinction of being one of the only places on the East Coast where you can ski with a view of the ocean at the Camden Snow Bowl. Home prices here are steep, averaging around $650,000. Number 6. York. One of the oldest European settlements in America, York was founded in 1652 and was briefly renamed Gorgiana before that. But the real draw here is the Old York Jail, a colonial prison that dates to 1720. It's one of the oldest prison buildings in the entire country, with stone walls 2.5 feet thick. The building actually uses timbers from an even earlier prison built on the same spot in 1656. You can tour the dungeon and see where debtors and criminals were held in pretty grim conditions. Just down the road is the Whidley Bridge, a 75-foot wooden suspension bridge that bounces and sways when you walk across it. It's often called the smallest suspension bridge in the world, though nobody's verified that officially. York also has the iconic Naval Lighthouse, one of the most photographed lighthouses in America. Homes in York are pricey, with the median around $800,000. Number 5. Damariscotta. Known as the oyster capital of New England, Damariscotta sits along the river of the same name, which produces about 80% of all Maine's farmed oysters. But here's what's really wild. Along the riverbanks are ancient shell middens, huge piles of oyster shells left by indigenous peoples over 2,500 years ago. The whaleback shell midden was once over 30 feet tall and 1,650 feet long before most of it was mined in the 1880s to make chicken feed. That's right, they destroyed an ancient monument to help chickens make stronger eggshells. What remains is now a state historic site. The Great Salt Bay here is also the northernmost mating area for horseshoe crabs in North America. About 2,300 people call Damariscotta home. The median home price runs around $450,000. Number 4. Machias. On June 12, 1775, less than 2 months after Lexington and Concord, the first naval battle of the American Revolution took place right here in Machias Bay. When British forces came to collect lumber for their besieged troops in Boston, the townspeople said no. They stormed a merchant ship, armed themselves with muskets, pitchforks, and axes, and chased down the British armed schooner HMS Margaretta. The ship's captain was shot and killed, and the Margaretta was captured. James Fenimore Cooper called it the Lexington of the Seas. The Burnham Tavern, where the rebels planned their attack, is still standing, built in 1770, and it's the only building left in eastern Maine directly connected to the Revolution. Today, Machias has about 2,000 residents. Homes here are more affordable than the coast, averaging around $275,000. And now we're into the top 3. These final towns have stories that honestly surprised me. Number 3. Monhegan Island. 12 miles off the Maine coast sits Monhegan Island, and getting there requires a ferry because there's no bridge. Once you arrive, you'll notice something immediately. There are no cars. None. No paved roads either. The island has banned automobiles, with only a few trucks and golf carts allowed for hauling freight. About 64 people live here year-round. The island didn't even have electricity until 1984. So why would anyone live here? Artists, that's who. Monhegan has been an artist colony since the 1850s, drawing painters like Edward Hopper, Rockwell Kent, George Bellows, and Jamie Wyeth. Theodore Edison, son of Thomas Edison, fell in love with the place and created a land trust that now protects 80% of the island as wilderness. The island also has the only lobster conservation area in Maine, restricting when fishing can happen. Property on Monhegan is extremely limited. When homes do sell, they often exceed $500,000 for very modest cottages. Number 2. Eastport. The easternmost city in the continental United States, Eastport is literally the first place in America to see the sunrise each morning. But that's just the beginning. In 1833, this tiny city was the second busiest trading port in the entire country, behind only New York City. Then came the sardines. Eastport became the sardine capital of the world. The first sardine cannery in America opened here in 1875, and by 1886, there were 13 factories running day and night with 800 workers. The world's largest sardine cannery operated right here. The last sardine was canned in Eastport in 1983. Today, about 1,288 people live here, making it Maine's least populous city. The harbor has tides of up to 27 feet and features Old Sow, the largest tidal whirlpool in the Western Hemisphere, at 250 feet across. Oh, and Eastport also has the deepest natural seaport in the continental U.S. On New Year's Eve, They drop a giant sardine and a maple leaf at midnight. Homes average around $225,000, making it one of the more affordable towns on this list. Number 1. Castine. And at number 1, we have what might be the most fought-over piece of real estate in American history. Castine, population about 1,300, calls itself the battle line of 4 nations, and it's not exaggerating. The French built Fort Pentagoet here in the 1630s. The Dutch attacked twice. The British took over. Then the Americans wanted it back. In 1779, the colonies sent their largest amphibious military expedition of the entire Revolutionary War to retake Castine from the British. It was an absolute disaster. The Penobscot expedition became the worst naval defeat in American history until Pearl Harbor, over 160 years later. The British held on to Castine during the War of 1812, and when they finally left in 1815, they took with them 10,750 pounds collected from customs duties. That money, known as the Castine Fund, was used to found Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia, Canada. So yes, an American town funded a Canadian university with tax money stolen by the British. By 1850, Castine had the second highest per capita wealth of any town in the entire United States. Today, you can still see over 100 historical markers throughout town, and the 500-foot training ship from Maine Maritime Academy sits in the harbor most of the year. Homes in Castine average around $475,000, and those are the 13 best small towns in Maine. From sardine capitals to artist islands to towns fought over by 4 different nations, Maine packs a lot of history into these little coastal communities. If you're from Maine or you visited any of these places, drop a comment and let us know what we missed. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.